Live. I am thrilled to get started today. I've been using excited too much in the intro of like my feelings about getting started. So we're doing thrilled today. We have another amazing guest, and welcome to the Innovative Expert Podcast. I'm Dr. Stephanie Thrower. I'm a psychologist. I have a small private practice that focuses on the intersection of maternal mental health and vocation, which is a funny spot to be in, but I love it. And I also I have a coaching business where I focus on entrepreneurship, the psychology of it, as well as AI and creating assets to actually sell and diversifying our experience as therapists. For most of the people I work with, therapists. And today we have a marketing specialist who is also a therapist. Her name is Allyson Clemmons, and she sees about 10 clients per week, charges $400 per session, and earns over $180,000 annually from her therapy practice alone. All while living abroad in Mexico, her consulting work focuses on helping therapists dismantle the belief that they have to choose between doing meaningful clinical work and making real money. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I know.
I've never done a Substack Live before, so this is brand new territory.
I know. Most people come on and they're like, what are we doing? And some people are like, wait, it's live?
Yeah, very weird. I didn't even know Substack went live. Like, I didn't know you could do that until you mentioned it. So yeah, totally new.
Yeah, it is my laziest way of doing podcasting because I don't really touch it. And then it goes out into the world of YouTube. And I should get in and optimize the channel. But I am also like, this is just a way to have conversations and to get out and to get practice talking to people. And mostly what I'm learning is just how awesome people's work are. And I get to learn a ton about my own business through these conversations, which I find is an amazing bonus. So yeah,
absolutely. Very cool.
Yeah. So how did you get here? Now, how did you come to be here? It's such like an open-ended. Let's just get on the couch.
Let me give you my whole life story.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your transition and continued, transition from doing therapy into the kind of offering you do in the marketing space.
Yeah. So I'm still a therapist, and that's my day job. Like my consulting and coaching is on the side. And so therapy is, what I do kind of first and foremost. I started doing consulting with other therapists back in, I want to say like 2022, early 2023. And that was a little bit because it was almost like an accident, like a happy accident. People started asking me, how did you grow your practice, and how should I do this, and what works for you? And then I found out that I actually really enjoyed it, which I was not really expecting. I didn't ever think that I would be interested in like what you said, entrepreneurship, or I always wanted to work for myself, but I didn't see myself going down the coaching road until it kind of just happened. So, and then like I said, I just really liked it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so you've stuck with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the space, and why marketing? Why do you think you've landed in the marketing? Like, we can do all these kinds of coaching that feels very wide open, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's two things. I think first of all, I kind of wanted something a little bit different and a little, I don't know if I want to say like lighter, but maybe a bit lighter than therapy. Something that was just a total change of pace. And then also, because I have like a core belief that I believe therapists should be paid well. And I think that we should have, the types of businesses that we want to have. And I think that marketing is the way that happens. And so, and I know, I mean, I networked with an attorney earlier this year, and he had sort of stepped out of like litigation and was now doing mediation for couples who were divorcing. And he was telling me like he had business classes in law school. And I was like, I don't know of any therapist who had a single business class in grad school ever at all. And so just knowing that we're not really set up to be able to do this after, licensing and after all of, whatever. So teaching it kind of became a priority for me. Like I enjoyed it. Plus, I believe that people need to learn the skills.
Yeah, it really opposes a lot of our training.
Yes. Yeah, it does. Which I'm sure is why we didn't get, the private practice classes in graduate school, right? Is because that's not the focus. And I went to social work school. So for my MSW program, a lot of it was around like advocacy and systems. And you do that typically working for someone. That's not always I don't think that's really like a private practice emphasis.
No, I mean, I think it would be, I wish that our business models would integrate more capacity to advocate, right? But then our businesses would have to be stronger, right? They would have to be,
right.
We would actually have to be paid for it, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, when I worked for a county mental health system when I was in the US, and I did that for about 7 years. And I mean, I remember they had all kinds of options for, paying for different services. So like grants, obviously, and then just the way that the money flowed within like Medicaid and the county, there were just so many options that we had to like be able to do like extra things for our clients. And in private practice, those resources just aren't there.
No. No, and I think it sounds like you had a unique experience of even following the money. I think in our training, most of us are so divorced from that, like the budgetary, right? It's like the people in admins, right, that are making these decisions. And when I wasn't sort of in the systems long enough to have that level of power, right? I was largely in trainings at the VA or in hospitals. And so, yeah, no comprehension of like what services rendered and how money flowed in those businesses. And we were, it felt like just a lot of distance from that, right?
Absolutely. Right.
And then we started private practice, and it's like, I don't know. We really want it to be nice and neat, I feel like, right? But it's pretty complicated.
Yeah, I think I think maybe like what you were saying about how if you don't follow the money, if there's no opportunity to learn how all of that works, then the thought and the assumption, understandably, is like, well, you build a therapy, you get your graduate school done, you get licensed, you build a therapy practice, and clients come to your therapy practice. And so then when that doesn't happen, people are like, why not? I'm a licensed therapist. Why? What do you mean I have all these gaps in my caseload? Because I think it's underestimated how much the agency does that for you, or the employer does that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. The why not, right? Like, why is my business not working?
Yeah.
Just like a forever question, right? I saw a post of yours where you talked about the assumption sometimes of your rate being able to be successful is, I think you talked about that I've done couples therapy and that it's so high demand that, can you talk more about that assumption that you encounter?
Yes. So the assumption that I run into a lot, or still do, is because I was working with couples, that's like the easy button for private practice. Like it's just, if you work with couples, you get to charge cash. You don't have to work with insurance. You don't have to do a lot of marketing, and they'll just kind of like, it'll just sort of happen. And that was not my experience. I mean, I learned marketing before, kind of during and like right before I pivoted into private practice. So I was working for an agency still. And it was easier. I had an easier time of it than I think people are having currently. This was also 4.5 years ago. So it was a bit different, but, I tell people like, it's not just magically easier. The reason that I think it's easier for a lot of people who work with couples is because that couples work, couples therapy, marriage counseling, whatever you want to call it, is something that the public, like the general layperson, understands. They understand why somebody would need marriage counseling, couples therapy. They understand why somebody would go, and they understand if I'm having this, problem with whatever conflict or infidelity or divorce, this is what I do. I go to couples counseling. But they don't have that same understanding for things that are a little bit more like a therapy concept, like relational trauma, or I don't know, like some of the more like nitty gritty, I can't even think of an example, but complex and relational trauma are a really common one that people want to, like people pleasing, or like family of origin stuff. That's not always so obvious. And so I think there's you have to sort of educate and explain on top of all of the marketing that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like then trying to jump into the coaching world, you're like, like a whole other layer of trying to educate, because it can be so broad and so many different things. And that like slipperiness, right, is not that, like you said, when people are in conversation with their friend or neighbor about marriage going not so well, right? That is number one. Like, we will get to the question of, have you tried counseling, right? And it just feels like a thing that you're supposed, like, it's like due diligence, right? Like, did you go to the doctor? Right?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. People want to, make sure that they check all the boxes and put all of their effort forward before divorce. And so one of those things is going to couples therapy. So it's just something that people get. They understand it.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're inferring to, like, in your work, so much of it is helping doing the education, getting clear on like why someone might want to work with you specifically over the number of choices they might have from large corporate entities, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's that. And I think it's also putting the whatever we would call it in therapy, let's say it's like complex trauma, you put that into I call it a costume. I'm sure there's like a better word for it, but into a costume that like a lay person can understand. So it might be, I don't know, for an example, like alcoholic parent, or like an estrangement, like those things, having an alcoholic parent or being estranged from a family member, people understand what that means. There's no translation work that has to happen. So when people talk about like, I treat, CPTSD, most people don't know what that is. And so they're not like, oh yeah, that's what I need, because they're not trained therapists.
Yeah.
That just, it's different with couples. They don't need that.
No, although I don't think couples therapy is simple, right? Like, whenever I'm referring to other people, I'm like, well, this is how it can look, but it's actually like there's a number of things you can do, and it's the actual experience of it is quite emotionally complicated, but also kind of sometimes pragmatically complicated. Of like, then you meet with one person, then you meet with like all the
and don't keep secrets, and don't have too many individual sessions, because that gets weird and blah blah blah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that one thing I've been thinking about too is, for a lot of us who are, I don't know, kind of fell into entrepreneurship, I think that there is the space of, well, I'll get really, really good at my craft, and that will speak for itself, right? So, and sometimes that looks like compulsive education.
Getting trained in every single modality under the sun. Yes, absolutely.
And I imagine that can look like, in so many different fields, the same, right? This experience of like, I've got to prove, I've got to have all the degrees, I've got it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's your take on that?
It's a great point. I don't think trainings are bad or wrong. I don't think they're bad or wrong. Love them. Love going to trainings. Love practicing new modalities. I mean, I'm right there with you. It's just that those, like, when somebody is charging $100 a session, or somebody is charging $400 to $500 a session, there is usually not that big of a skills gap. It's not about skills. It's not about modalities. Now, of course, you have to know what you're doing. You have to have proper, whatever, consultation, supervision, whatever that looks like, I think is really important. But credentialing, stacking, that's again, like you run into the issue of lay people, non-therapists don't even know what those credentials mean or why they're valuable. We know that, but they don't. So I think it's the same kind of risk of like trying to prove something that the client most likely is not going to understand.
Totally. And I think it has a very similar energy to like credential stacking. I don't know, I think can be mirrored in marketing, right? You're like, you could be stacking, like, I'm going to do an email list and I'm going to be on Instagram.
Absolutely. And I'm going to do ads and SEO and all of these different platforms. Yes, absolutely. Totally.
So how do you support people in that kind of energy? Because that's, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is anxiety driven. And I totally understand why that starts to feel like when people, when a client like stops, therapy, says I'm, done with therapy, whatever, and you've got this scheduling gap, you're like, well, I'm going to just do all of these tasks to fill it. And like, sometimes that's not, again, that may not be bad or wrong. My experience is that that's going to dilute your focus. And so you're going to kind of like half accomplish these things. It's not very sustainable in terms of like capacity and energy. So I tend to think that's sort of a downside, is like you're going to spread yourself really thin on what you're able to consistently do. And then my, I guess, approach to marketing is pretty narrow. I don't add in a bunch of stuff. I don't do like a whole lot of things. I do like digital marketing, and depending on, I'll do networking like with other therapists and other professionals. And then depending on the service, I might, pitch to a podcast, for example, or pitch like a guest post. That's really about all I do. I'm not super active on social media when it comes to therapy. I don't do a whole lot of things, but I'm able to like give my attention and my focus to the 3 or 4 things that I do. And that tends to work out better for me. I suppose if somebody was like really creative and like really wanted to do a bunch of things, maybe that would be okay, but I don't think I could sustain that just personally.
Well, and I think I think adding in that piece too of the creative, right? Like so much of like my vocational psychology training is kind of about understanding people's like work personalities, right? I feel like I'm putting it into like a 17 magazine, right? Like what's your quiz? But I do think that we have these like profiles where creativity, sales, science, like it's kind of, we have strengths and weaknesses in these areas. We have skills, we also have lack of interest in certain areas, right? Like lack of skill is also part of it, right? And so in that space, I think that is like such the funny part of being an entrepreneur is you kind of have to do it all. And and I think a lot of people they kind of know what their profile is, but it really is powerful when they're reflected back of like, oh, I do have this creative side of me that I'm looking to fulfill in my business, versus some people who are very clear, like absolutely don't want to go into Canva. Like I never want to touch it. I don't want to straight to it. And I wonder, what have you noticed about yourself, or even the people that you've worked with in that space of like understanding themselves?
That's a good question. For me personally, I really don't. I will be on social media to the extent that I need to be for my coaching and consulting business. I will not do it for therapy, pretty much. I just don't have any interest. It seems like it would be, I don't know why, it just seems like it would be a really like a long game. And I just don't have, like I said, I just don't have the itch. I just don't.
Where do you see the distinction with the coaching piece, like needing to be on?
Because that's sort of the way that I've chosen. It's interesting. Is that that's the way that I've chosen to market my coaching business. And I keep them in terms of, well, in terms of everything, but like with the strategy between coaching and consulting and therapy, like my strategies are completely different. So I do like all social media and email marketing for coaching. And then for therapy, it's mostly, like I said, website and word of mouth, and a little bit of writing here and there, but like I don't have, like a Substack, for example, and like blogging. That's the other thing that I'm really, really picky and strategic about what I write. I don't want to write just for writing's sake. That just feels like it again, like if somebody really likes it, and I've told my clients this, if they find it like a creative outlet, then I say do it. Like I'm not going to hold them back. It's just not something that I'm going to do. And it's not something that I think they should force themselves to do.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm hearing that you're not really interested in feeding the algorithms of is that
Not really. Yeah. That's pretty accurate.
yeah.
I like emailing. I like email marketing. I think
Yeah.
that's really fun. But yeah, I do the social media stuff because I chose to day one, and not necessarily because I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to post on Instagram. I don't really feel like that.
Well, and even with the like using blogging as an SEO function, right? Like where that's like
Mm-hmm.
then you're just feeding with text, right? You're like, okay, here's all the jumbled
Yeah,
keywords, and then one day maybe you'll point to me, right? As opposed,
maybe. Right. And then the location stuff gets weird because it's not location specific. And so then you've got somebody reaching out from wherever, Texas, and I'm like, I'm not licensed there. So what was the purpose of all of this? Yeah, I have a lot of complaints about blogging.
yeah. I
Don't
mean,
get me started.
well, and it's really interesting, I think, like how what AI has done for right, like
Mm-hmm.
within the span of time that we've talked, I could have endless amounts of like, I don't know, 30 blogs done, all
Right.
written at the same time. And yeah, it's just really it's interesting to think about how you show up and compete without feeling like a machine yourself, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I just had this conversation with a client of mine, just like yesterday, I think, or maybe on Tuesday. And she was asking me about blogging, and I said, well, there's pros and cons to it. I think it's useful for like you know the authority in Google's eyes, right? Like you're saying, I'm an expert on this topic, and so I'm writing about this topic. But in terms of like client conversion, I've never had a I had a blog post one time when I was seeing couples that was ranked on page one for like a very specific term. And it was like between position 1 and 3 for several years. And I never got a client from it because that wasn't the purpose, right? Like I wasn't optimizing it for conversion. It was an informational search, and people happened to be searching that thing. It was on domestic violence too. So it was kind of like, yeah. Anyway, blogging.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I think we can just get I kind of coming back to that like how anxiety and marketing I think can really feel like I don't know. I just think anxiety has so much fun in the marketing space, right? It's like it could be this, and it could
Absolutely.
be this, and it could be this,
Yes.
um, and I think like when we are stacking in that space too, it's almost like our attention span also shortens. It's like I might do the Yap challenge, right? Or I might do, I think there was a Substack challenge. I was like, oh, do I pay another $300 to do?
I know, right? I know.
And
It's tempting.
I
I'm
know,
like, maybe I should.
maybe, right? And I wonder, I mean, we're both therapists, we can analyze that, but like, yeah, it's I think the combination of our shortened attention spans and how anxiety can flourish in
Yes.
marketing is probably something you face a lot in your work.
Yeah, I have a theory about that actually. I think because most people don't have a strategy for marketing. They only have tactics, like tasks, like if I post some posts, that should bring in a client or sell this product or whatever. That's not a strategy though. That's just things that you do periodically that is supposed to feed a strategy. But without that foundation, those things just become like, oh, maybe I'll do a Substack, maybe I'll do like a blog on my website, maybe I'll pitch a podcast, maybe I don't know, have an Instagram follow. Like it lacks a foundation that it needs to be able to um, like meet the goals of the business. Of course, this is about therapy clients, but it could be about anything.
Right. Like if we turn this into therapy language, it's like having, I don't know, the objectives of the things you do in session, but not actually having like a theoretical approach to why those like actual
Yeah.
tasks do anything, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
look at that. Look at that math. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And so who have you loved learning from in the marketing space?
That's a good question. I had a mentor. Well, my business coach right now, I'm obsessed with. And then I had a business coach before her a few years ago who these two coaches are not therapists. So they're familiar with therapy, but they're not therapists. So they have online coaching businesses. And I don't remember why. I think, again, it was kind of a happy accident, but I stumbled upon an ad one time for my very first business coach. And I just loved her way of thinking, her strategy, her like the way that she would kind of rage against the online coaching machine. I just loved it. And I was like, I could really learn from her. And this is really interesting. And it was totally against the grain. And I like learning from people who don't really do the status quo thing. They do something a little bit different. So yeah, she's no longer in business, unfortunately, but she was my first business coach and I just loved her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Like we've done so much work to learn about, psychology too is it can be in such a generalist space. Like we learn the narrow pieces of how to do certain kinds of therapy, but like we start so broad about like, this is the brain, right? This is bad thoughts on the brain, right? And,
right. Yes.
And then it's just an interesting process to try to, just as an entrepreneur, like come in and be like, well, what is marketing? And for it to be so flipped. Well, psychology is utilized so heavily in marketing, but from a completely opposing direction, I think. I think the thing I struggle with so much, or I notice I struggle a lot with, is holding tension and like keeping it, right? And I think there's something, and probably maybe, I think I still do that in therapy sessions of like, maybe I won't have that. I'll wait till the story unfolds and I'll hit him at one point, right? With the like, here's the question, right? But I'm right there with them. I can see their reaction the whole time. I know I'm not hurting them or whatever it is, right? But it's hard to wrap your head around in how you use people's emotions in the marketing space, right? I feel like that's a big thing to confront. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm a huge advocate. And this is a complaint that I've had about the coaching world, is that sometimes those are used for evil instead of good. And so I really believe that therapists should be, I think it goes without saying, but like using psychology as a tool to be helpful and to get their services in front of the right people and to let clients know like there is, hope. There's a solution of sorts that, here's how I can help you, versus it being, like, I don't know, manipulative or like pressure filled, or like the bro marketing, bro marketing, like, I don't know, it just feels dishonest. And so I don't think therapists should be, I don't think anybody should be using it for those purposes. But I wonder sometimes if that's why therapists can be really opposed to marketing, is because the stereotype is like, it's bro.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if like some of it sometimes feels I don't know how much of this is generational too, but like I remember I finished my sports psych degree in 2009 or 8 and was like, no, I can't remember. Sorry. And there was a friend, I couldn't get a job. And because everyone was like, I moved into Boston and people were like, do you mean like athletic training? And I was like, no,
Right.
sport.
Right.
Right. And still not a therapist, but like able to do like skills work, right? Like I don't know what I was getting a master's in. And I worked at a gym, like a small personal training gym. And of course, like I was like manager and I had to like learn how to do sales. This is not a great place to learn how to do sales. And it was for women and it was so focused on, getting the sale. And I remember them like part of the sales process is getting people on scales and giving them giving them their obesity, right? Like whatever, right? It was
Yeah.
and
Yikes.
I remember the motto being like, no tears, no sale, right? And I was like, that is the epitome of bro. I don't know. Or just evilness. I don't know, whatever it is.
Super bro. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
rough.
and like I would say most people have some kind of experience with those sale. Like it's not like, even though I think we're in a different time, we still
Yeah.
encounter those kinds of things all the time where the sales moment is just like, I don't know. It's like putting you down. I don't think that therapists sell that way, but I do think the coaching, I hope they don't, but I do think the coaching
Yeah.
space is riddled with it, right?
Absolutely.
It sounds like you've taken a very different approach in thinking about becoming a coach and a consultant.
Yeah, I've been really, and that's what I have really liked about my two business coaches. And I mean, they're very honest and they're very like calm and regulated. And so there's not this like feeling of like, if I don't buy this thing that I can't afford, I'm bad, like I'm a bad therapist or I'm a bad coach or like I'm disempowered. Like there's a lot of that language. And yeah, I just wasn't taught to sell like that, which I really appreciate. And like, that was sort of, that was on purpose. I didn't want to learn that way. But yeah, like in the Facebook groups and like coaching groups that I'm in, I will see it sometimes and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. And I don't agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, Facebook is its journey of emotional ups and downs, right? Of like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but it's like, I know that that's how people do it, to scale. I mean, that's how a lot of coaches are taught to sell. I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're bad people most of the time. And I don't think they're, trying to scam anybody. Like, I don't generally think that. I think that that's just the skill set that they were taught and they're just repeating it.
and there's not a ton of evidence that like a nuanced approach works, right? And so they're just amassing, right? Yeah, that they have. I'm wondering how, I feel like marketing is such a space for analyzing data, and I wonder how you approach that, or I don't know what your take is on data and marketing.
Yeah, I wish I was better with data. I wish I was better at it. It's a skill set I'm trying to develop, but I'm not naturally inclined to like look at data and like keep track of it, etc. I mean, I do keep track of certain things that are important. Like I always keep track of, I don't know, for example, like in my therapy business, like who's finding me and like who was referred maybe by somebody or how they came across. So I can kind of double down on those channels. I pay attention to like whatever, current like SEO practices, things like that are backed by data. But like in general, I don't do data for data's sake. I find it to be kind of laborious, so I don't do it. But yeah, I do the bare minimum for data.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like your own profile, right? Like
Yeah.
what works for you. And I think that is like the funny thing about um I mean, it's probably true for every career, right? But in entrepreneurship, like because there is so many different demands, right? It's like there
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, every business is kind of a snowflake, as cheesy as it sounds, right?
Yeah.
So why
Yeah.
something works for you
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes like is why it's very hard to be like, well, your proven strategy like isn't going to really
Right.
map onto me perfectly, right?
Totally. Totally. Absolutely. It's like the couples thing that we were talking about at the beginning of the interview. Like, just because it was easy for me to get couples, whoops, is not, that doesn't mean, sorry, my screensaver started.
No, I know it
That
starts
doesn't,
and you're like, am I live? Yeah.
sorry. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be easy for somebody else to build a practice like right alongside me, because they have a different location, they have a different ideal client, they have a different price point. Like there's a lot of variables and a lot of factors. So I think what I try to do is look at people's success as inspiration and what's possible, rather than like, I'm going to get the exact results as them if I follow their exact strategy, because that's probably not true,
Yeah.
you know? And I don't think that's, again, like, I don't think that's dishonest. I think it's more of like um, here's what you can hope for. Here's what you can believe is possible for you. And of course, like your mileage may vary.
Absolutely. I think that I have been able to interview different people who are like, oh yeah, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, like own a business, like or I've done it for 25 years, right? Like all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Versus other people who are like kind of come into it. I don't think I expected it necessarily. I can see like why it makes sense, but it's funny to be like, wait, this is what I'm doing? Like
Yeah, I know. Is
it
that
sounds like
funny?
yeah, it sounds like you might kind of be more in that boat. And often and really
Yes.
for me it came from yearning freedom, which I think that I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming from the story I see of you is also true. Um
Yes,
and it,
absolutely.
and it sounds like freedom in a lot of ways, but it seems like travel has been a big goal or being able to be where you want to be.
Yeah. So I've always been, that's one thing that I've always known that I would do, is like not be in the same whatever place that I grew up. That I would kind of move around, or at least leave. I grew up in California and like moved to Oregon, and did grad school and all of that, and stayed there for a long time. And that was just, it was never the plan to stay on the West Coast. It was never even the plan to stay in the US. And then I married a non-US citizen. And so that sort of like propelled me forward. And I'm so glad that that's what I did. And I think it would have been, I was just telling Kim this yesterday, like I think it would have been more challenging had I done my private practice in a different way, being out of the country and like, all that stuff. It just felt like working for myself and doing it my own way was probably the best path for me.
I know. And I think it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's kind of easy to like I don't know if you have that. This is my own problem, maybe not yours, but there's like you forget what you've built, right? Because I think in business you
Mm-hmm.
can just like the growth possibilities can kind of feel endless. And also we just get a lot of messages, no matter, even if we're not on social media, about the importance to grow. And I think
Yeah.
but then you sit back and you're like, oh, but I'm like like I don't even remember what it's like to not choose my schedule, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my body remembers, which is why I have a whole cringe. My whole body cringes when you say it. I'm like, I can't.
I know, right?
Or
And
having to commute, having to go into an office, like not being able to pick my clients. I mean, yeah,
yeah, and
it's a rough
it's just
gig.
it's so and it's a powerful I don't know, like me, whatever, however many years ago, 10 years ago, would have not been able to fathom like taking this for granted, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
of being like, of
Mm-hmm.
course. Yeah, of course, that's my website. And I went on an interview and no one had to approve it, and whatever it is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I get to set my rates. I get to take this day off. I get to say I'm going to not see this person anymore. I'm going to like, yeah, all of those decisions. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think because we're human and we just focus on the current struggles and suffering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where
Mm-hmm.
we are. I wonder for you, because I think a lot about like we're always going to have some struggles or harder moments in our business, and I wonder for you what has helped get unstuck or like
Mm.
move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a couple things. I think the first thing is having support, like having my business coaches. Like I said, I really enjoy working with her and find a lot of support in that relationship. So I think finding somebody that you can like almost like a mentor, somebody who you can talk strategy with, but also talk about like any kind of like personal stuff that's coming up with business, because that happens a lot. I think that's really important. And then like really, truly like believing in yourself. I mean, I think that sounds sort of basic and cheesy, but it's true. It's true. And like self-trust, trusting that like, even though I don't know where this is going. I'm actually in the middle of doing this myself. I was just telling Kim yesterday, like I'm in the middle of a pivot. I stopped seeing couples at the end of the year. And so all of 2026 has been getting ready and like preparing to like pivot, but also, trying to basically start from scratch. Like I'm basically starting from scratch. All my websites new, online stuff's new, pricing's new, everything's new. And so there have been moments this year where I'm like, I know where I'm going and I know I'm going to get there. I don't exactly know when, but I know that's where I'm going to go. And so I'm just going to keep going.
And how
And
how
that's
has that
been rough.
narrative, yeah, how has that voice evolved over your years in business, right? Like I could imagine there was like a mini voice of that, but it was hard to
Mm-hmm.
trust, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This sounds like this voice has been developed. This voice has been here for a while and like is like, hey, I've taken these risks. I have this evidence.
Yep.
I know. Yeah.
Yep.
So the evolution, I assume.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it started a long time. I think it started before business. Like I think it's because of other things that have happened in my life versus business. I think business has been easier because I have developed that self-trust over time. And it's just, I've applied that to my practice. I've applied it to my coaching business. And I've just said, like, I just don't, I'm not really a giver upper. I will stop if something is like clearly not working because I understand like this thing is not working and I don't want to do a sunk cost effort thing. So I will change what I'm doing. But I tend to not see that as failure. And I think that's a little bit of a different mindset. I think some people will see that, and maybe therapists in kind of generally speaking may do this more often. I think sometimes they have some anxiety and therefore some judgment about like if I change what I'm doing, if I change course, or if this thing doesn't work, then that means like I'm bad at this or whatever. And so I've just really tried to not, I've tried to do kind of the opposite and just take that as data, as we were talking about. So,
Yeah. I mean, I think this is all really good advice for any of us
yeah.
who are, yeah, keep taking steps forward. It's just not taking, it really sounds like there's a little bit of depersonalization of like, this is
Mm-hmm.
happening, but it has nothing to do with my worth or whether, right? Like
Yes.
this is a part of the process. And
Yes.
and it's wild to think you had human develop like personal development before business, you know?
It continues in business. I mean, business is like a mirror.
Yeah.
You hold the mirror up and it shows like oh, that thing is a little bit unfinished, or it's like that thing I didn't know about myself. There's been a little bit of that too, for sure.
Yeah. And I think, and it's, I think being a vocational psychologist, like I see the value of us practicing our purpose in work. And when we are in W-2s, it's very easy to blame other people. When we're in this
Mm-hmm.
space, it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
clear we usually have only
Mm-hmm.
ourselves to blame, which can go to
Yep.
the extreme, like you said.
Yeah.
And but I also think it's really cool to be able to I don't know, have that kind of ownership, as we said, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and I think not taking it personally. And of course, that's not like, I mean, I haven't arrived. Like these are always works in progress. I mean, there's times where I'm like, oh, I took that really personally, or whatever. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know of an example, but there's definitely times where that will come up for me, and so I just have to say, like, oh, this is a thing that I have to notice. Like this is a theme, or this is something that I wasn't aware of before. I don't make it, I try really hard not to make it mean anything about me or where I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah, it does not sound like you're very reactive to these things.
I mean,
Or you
I
hope
have
to
my
be.
moments of frustration for sure. Don't get me wrong. There's been a few times I'm like, I'm going to rage quit this thing, whatever I'm doing. I'm going to rage quit everything. So I'm going to go and sit down outside of my office, take a walk.
Yeah, rage quitting has become rage. It's like not even just quitting, it's like usually burning something down, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna rage burn it all down. Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I've definitely have those had those moments. And I again, like I think I was trained in ACT when I was working at the county. And I think having that like I try to remember, and I think it's just been ingrained in my brain for so many years that I tend to look at things as like this is a temporary feeling. Like this is just a feeling that I'm having. It doesn't necessarily mean anything about anything. It's just a feeling. And so if I can let that, if I can accept and be willing to have that feeling without it being a fact, that's been really helpful.
Absolutely. And when you're in alignment with your values, right? Like we could just nerd out on ACT. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when you're in alignment with your values, the stress and the difficulty and the negative feelings are worth it, right? It's like, well, I have a
Absolutely.
context to put this into. I know why it matters to be sad or jealous or frustrated, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And if this is just part of I mean, I look at it a little bit like this is like growing pains, maybe. Like it's
yeah,
just I'm having this big change in my business, basically starting from zero. And it's not starting from zero as in like, I don't know, it's a different starting from zero because it's also like a totally different population that I'm trying to work with in a different like modality. It's all of it's new. And because of that, I have theories, I have a framework, but like I have to figure out how exactly I'm putting that into practice. And that's not the same as what I did before with couples. Like it's just a different strategy is the same pretty much, but it's still like different enough that I'm like, okay, this is like a new road that I'm going down and I don't know what that road involves.
I know. Yeah. It's just so different when you have the map, right? When you've seen it and you've been to the destination, you're like, I know what that town is. I know I can go to this coffee shop, right? But then that
Mm-hmm.
anticipation of like being like, but I've never been there. And I've seen the
Yeah.
pictures, but I don't actually, yeah. Self trust is just
Mm-hmm.
delusional at that point because the experience is not even there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You just have
Yep.
to tolerate
I'm
it,
pretty
right?
delusional.
But it's like, yeah, great. I want to go. It's worth going, but I'm going to
Mhm.
have to deal with not knowing what it's going to
I'm going
feel
to
like.
have to deal with not knowing. Yep. And there's a lack of feedback loop. Like with couples, it was a feedback loop. And I got positive feedback quickly when I was building my couples practice. And so it was like, okay, keep going because this is working. Well, now this is such a different thing that I'm doing that I'm like, I have some feedback. I have some really positive feedback, but like I'm not where I want to be. And so I have to just believe that that town exists and that I'm going there, and the road ahead is like a little bit like, but I'm going to get there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining with us today.
Of course.
Where can
Of
people
course.
find you?
Probably. So I'm on Instagram. The handle is at Allyson Markets. And then my website is AllysonClemmons.com.
Yes, spelled C-L.
2 M's. Yeah, CLEMMONS. Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
not E. Thank you so much for joining me. And
thanks for having me.
I love this conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. Thanks for the invite. It was just so fun.
Take good care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.